It's given me a great honor to present the speakers for this seminar today, who are doing what I think is really pioneering work in the academy specifically. And we want to hear about their work. They've been, these are results of research done with the UWB SRCP award from last year, given to them last year in 2020. And it's about mindfulness. It's one of my favorite subjects, certainly these days, and something that we all can learn about and benefit from looking at ourselves in a slightly different way and being more kind, and it helps to reduce our stress. And I can tell you that my dreams are beautiful. I haven't had terrible dreams in months now. I don't know, crossing my fingers and hope it continues that way as I practice. And so we're honored to have then doctors Niitsu and Appel. And so they have the abstract. Hopefully everyone has read the abstract, and it's about their work in mindfulness and advancing an approach shown to increase the level of resilience to stress, particularly. And it's going to be a joint presentation. We'll go for 30 to 40 minutes with their presentation, and then we'll have time for questions and answer period, and we should finish within the hour, hopefully. Okay, so with that, I just pass it over to our faculty members.
All right, well, thank you so much for such a great introduction. So particularly, I feel honored to have Dr. Bach, because I joined the mindfulness session hosted by Dr. Bach last year, and that was super helpful. So mindfulness has been very helpful for me too. I feel so happy today. I'm on campus. I don't know if you can see, but we have a sun out there. So I felt just so happy to see the sunlight. So I did prepare some PowerPoint slides. So if I can start sharing my screen, they put this on the full screen. This is not the right swap. I hope you can see the screen okay. If not, please let me know. So as Dr. Bach suggested, this is about to report what we did through the Resilience Through Mindfulness project. My name is Niitsu, and I'm an assistant professor in School of Nursing and Health Studies. And my name comes with so many letters that nobody can remember. ARNP, that stands for the Advanced Registered Nurse Practitioner, and the PMH something that is a Psychiatric Mental Health Nurse Practitioner, board certified. So I am a psych nurse practitioner by training. And before I joined here at the UW Bothell, I used to work as a psych nurse practitioner at the University of Colorado Institute Medical Campus to take care of the professional learners, such as medical residents, nursing students, PhD students, postdoc fellow. It was shocking to me to realize how many students are struggling with mental health, how much they need some help. So my passion was always there to support students' mental health. Then this pandemic happened. It's still ongoing. Back in like March 2020, I believe, the pandemic started, and I felt so concerned with the mental health in our students. So I wanted to do something. So this is how this project started. And fortunately, I am not the only one who felt that way. And we have such amazing faculty and staff on this campus, including Dr. Appel, who is the co-PI of this project. And Dr. Appel is here. Do you want to say hi? Then maybe tell us about some behavioral health project you've been ready.
Sure. I can say briefly, we have a behavioral health program at the School of Nursing and Health Studies that started about 3 years ago. It was conceptualized from our dean, Shari Dorkin, and myself, and our team. We recruited, I think there's about 8 members, interdisciplinary background, and we are working with healthcare providers from Providence, Alaska, and we hope to expand the program to other sites locally as well as throughout the state. And the main aim of the program is to provide knowledge and skills in working with behavioral health patients. And when I say behavioral health, that includes mental health and substance use. So this project was a perfect fit for the program and for me and my interest and background in meditation. So thank you, Ko.
Yeah, thank you. And she's also leading the behavioral health learning community on this campus too. So I feel so lucky to have you on this project as well. And we also have Dr. Brian White. He is a teaching professor in STEM. He is one of the kindest human beings I've ever met. And his passion toward the student mental health and the well-being in our student is just so strong. And I feel so lucky to have Dr. White as well on this team. And Dr. Jody Ali, she is a professor in School of Nursing and Health Studies. And she is a health educator by training. And she has been also involved with some mental health project on this campus. And of course, Dr. Rosemary Simmons, she was the director of the counseling center, and she is now retired. For those who know Dr. Simmons, she is such a wonderful, wonderful human being. And she has done tremendously to support the mental health and the well-being among our students. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank those amazing research team members. Also, I want to say thank you to the Office of the Sponsored Research, who is hosting this seminar. This research was funded by them and the School of Nursing and Health Studies. So special thanks to Dean Dworkin. And this project was also funded by the UW Residence Lab located in the Seattle. So without their support, we couldn't do this. So I want to say thank you for their support. On the grant application, we mentioned several statistics. One is about the health study, a health mind study by Dr. Lipson and her colleagues. So they analyzed the 10 years of the data among the students, the college students in the United States, like 55,000 people. And they found some trend for the past 10 years between 2007 and 2017. Then they found that the rate of the treatment of the mental health service in the college students increased from 19% to 34%. I think we are looking at this from the black bar right here. So back in 2007, it was about 19%, and it increased to 34% in 10 years. And similarly, the percent of the students with a lifetime diagnosis, such as depression, anxiety, ADHD, the rate increased from 22% to 36%. So we're looking at this right here, the lifetime diagnosis on the most right bar, 22% to 35.5%. So basically, the need was on demand already from 2007 to 2017. And we actually did the same study here at UW Bothell too, back in 2017. And I took this information from the slides presented by Dr. Simmons. So the credit goes to her. So 4,000 undergraduate and graduate students at UW Bothell received the invitation to complete the survey, and 20% of them responded, which is pretty good. And we found out that 35% of those survey participants received some mental health diagnoses, such as depression, anxiety, and so forth, in their life. So which is about the same as the national average, 35%. Then additionally, 30% of the respondents met the criteria for the depression. Maybe they're not sleeping so well, or maybe sleeping too much, or maybe eating too little, too much. Those are criteria for the depression. Similarly, for 22%, for the anxiety, feeling jumpy, constantly nervous. 20% of respondents engaged with a non-suicidal self-injury, which is alarming. 20% have taken some psychiatric medication. As a psych nurse practitioner, I prescribe medications. As a prescriber, I want to emphasize that there's nothing wrong with taking a psychiatric medications. If your blood sugar is too high, we take medications to control the blood sugar. Same for the psych. If your brain chemistry needs is in balance, then we can have medications to restore the balance. And it can be very helpful. So I wanted to emphasize that. And the 12% experience suicidal ideation, which is concerning. Maybe because I'm a psych nurse, I have encountered many incidents with suicide in Nebraska, Colorado, Washington, including my patients, my students, and it never gets easy. Every time it happens, it leaves such a deep scar in my heart. Then it is concerning. Yeah, absolutely. First about, again, this slides go to, the credit goes to Dr. Simmons. According to her, our students have experienced being exposed to a variety of the traumatic events, including some natural related, such as the earthquake, flooding. We just had so much rain over the weekend, and I hope you all are staying safe and dry. Or could be person-made too, such as a car transportation accident. While we have the people who immigrated from other countries, or maybe their parents did, and they may have gone through something like war, genocide, and so forth. Oppressive communities, like anti-Asian movement, for example. I just learned that our students received the anti-Asian hateful comments from I think somebody around this campus, UW Bothell, and it is just a few weeks ago. We live in such a difficult time. Could be interpersonal too, emotional, physical, sexual abuse by family, could be friends, could be strangers. And on top of these, so many events, we all going through the pandemic. It's been a year and a half, but still it's ongoing. And I feel like, the pandemic made the pre-existing issues much worse. If those emotional, physical, sexual abuse was done by family, I can't imagine how horrible it might be for the past year and a half to get stuck inside the household all the time. So these are something that our students have experienced, even before the pandemic. So I wanted to ask you this question. If you go to this link, I just placed in the chat. I believe you have access to this the survey asking you, have you been concerned with the mental health or well-being in your students? I'm assuming that most of you are the faculty and staff. If you're a student, you can think of yourself, or you can think of your classmates. Just curious to see, it just for the statistical purpose, yes or no. Just wanted to see how this audience is feeling nowadays. Personally, I am very concerned. I had a lecture for my undergraduate nursing student, and they looked beyond exhaustion. They don't even have a good facial expression, like very apathic, and I was very concerned. And it looks like 3 of you have responded, and that they are voting for yes, and for in 100% so far of you are saying yes, you have been concerned with the mental health. So am I, and so are the team members. So we wanted to do something to address the mental health issues in our students, and we kind of brainstorm together. Maybe we can create some course that we can deliver to the students, or we thought about the mindfulness too, because the mindfulness is a very evidence-based intervention. For example, this is a systematic review of the mindfulness-based interventions in undergraduate students all over the world. And so what is a mindfulness? You can see that the definition of the mindfulness here, suggested by Dr. Kabat-Zinn, who is considered as a father of the mindfulness movement in this country. Mindfulness is basically simply being attention and paying attention to this present moment, because our mind tends to wander to the future or the past all the time. Like when I woke up this morning, as soon as I woke up, my brain started making a to-do list in my head. Then already feeling stressed. Also, my body is physically inside the bed. So, but if we, with the mindfulness, if we can bring attention to the present moment, it can be a very effective way to cope with the stress, anxiety, and other things. So they concluded that the mindfulness-based intervention have shown to be promising interventions to promote mental health in academic settings. That is great. This is why we decided to go with mindfulness. There are many variety of the interventions ranging from 45 minutes for 3 weeks to like 120 minutes for 10 weeks or 90 minutes for 20 weeks. I thought that might be way too long, so I decided to go with 75 minutes. Or actually 75 is still too long. I decided to go with 60 minutes. But I feel like 8 weeks is a right amount, because we are going with a quota system, which is 10 weeks and 8 weeks. Sounded right to me. And for the outcome evaluation, mindfulness, anxiety, stress, depression, I thought we could measure the domains. We've never done anything like this, at least on this campus. So we wanted to first, to develop the mindfulness-based interventions for our students at the UW Bothell. There are some programs at the UW Seattle, but I think you have to be a UW Seattle student to have access, or you have to pay like $600, $700 for the 8 weeks. Very similar program to this. So we wanted to bring mindfulness to this campus. And most of the interventions were delivered in person. So we are not sure if delivering the mindfulness interventions virtually, meaning like online like this, is feasible and effective, to see if the mindfulness-based intervention can reduce the level of the stress, anxiety, depression, and increase the level of the mindfulness. So these are the purposes of the study. For the pilot study, we decided to go with the quasi-experimental design, meaning that it lacks the randomization. We thought this is a good start. Very simple design, pre-test, interventions, and post-test. And we did this study in the academic year 2020 to 2021. And we did 3 quarters, autumn 2021, winter this year 21, and the spring 21. So at the beginning of the quarter, we distributed flyers through the email and the social media in September 2020, January 21, March 2021. And I know that many of you also helped us to distribute the flyers. I want to take this opportunity to thank you so much for helping us to recruit the participants. And once they sign up, raise the consent to sign up, they have access to the pre-test, and they complete something called DASS, that's depression, anxiety, stress skills, and FFMQ to measure the levels of mindfulness. Then they have 3 options to sign up. One is the mindfulness-based stress reduction by meeting weekly through Zoom, read by MBSR certified PI, that is me. I trained in mindfulness as well. So we meet just weekly. Then I led the mindfulness session. I didn't make up anything. I just followed the pre-existing workbook. So I'm gonna talk about this more in the next slide. Or the student have the option to sign up for to learn the mindfulness through something called Insight Timer, which is an app that you can download to your smartphone, or you can have access to the web browser online as well. Or just no intervention, just do the pre-test, post-test. Then, and after 8 weeks later, we asked the participants to complete the same skill to measure the depression, anxiety, stress, and the mindfulness levels. So that was our design. Then for the workbook, so based on this workbook by the Dr. Stahl and Dr. Goldstein, they were the students of the Dr. Kabat-Zinn, the father of the mindfulness movement in this country. Based on their workbook, designed the curriculum for the 8 weeks. starting with mindfulness checking, breathing, mindful walking, eating, and so forth, a variety of the mindfulness-based interventions. Maybe I can kind of quickly demonstrate on how what the mindful checking and mindful breathing are. If you feel comfortable, feel free to follow me. You can turn off your webcam if you feel shy in compute the webcam. The mindfulness checking and mindful breathing, I usually recommend the participants to close your eyes if you feel like, or you can just have a soft gaze. Then the mindfulness check-ins to observe our thought, feelings, body sensations that are happening right now. So we can just observe our thought to see what you're thinking right now in this moment. Are you already thinking about tonight's dinner or tomorrow? Or some argument that you had with your family yesterday, last week? Our mind constantly wanders to the future or the past. According to a study, we have like 6,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are negative. So we can just observe our thoughts, how you're feeling right now, in this moment, without any judgment, just with your curiosity. And to be in the present moment, focusing on the breathing, it's a great way. So let's bring our attention to the tip of your nose. Feeling the cool air coming in from your nose. And breathe out from your mouth, just naturally and slowly. When we are feeling nervous, we tend to breathe with our chest. So simply switching from the chest to belly breathing can be quite calming. So as you inhale from the nose, make sure that your tummy expands. And as you exhale, your tummy deflates just like the balloon. Breathe in. And out. Slowly and mindfully. Before we conclude this very short exercise, let's take a moment to congratulate ourselves, to take this time to take care of ourselves. And perhaps we can be thankful for this opportunity to meet even virtually and spend time together. And when you're ready, you may slowly open your eyes. I hope you liked it. So that is a brief demonstration of how the Zoom-based intervention looks like. Basically, I led the intervention. And for those students who sign up for the app group inside Timer, they learn from the app or the website, the inside Timer website, not me, just the asynchronously. Then make sure that, so when we talked about mindful checking and breathing in week 1, the participant in the app group also learned the same skills, so the content matched. Meanwhile, we also asked the participants to keep the practice log sheet through the Google Docs. So this is an example done by the Zoom participant. This student practiced mindful breathing. And I don't know if you can read it or not, but she said she practiced mindfulness breathing while walking her dog. She often felt rushed in a hurry to take her dog out, but she decided to practice mindful breathing. Then it was super helpful for her to calm down. That she was able to notice her surroundings, the smell of the autumn, the beautiful color, the leaf changing the color from the green to, yellow, orange. Then she described that. Then I read the comment. I provide feedback. That is an excellent example. Thanks so much for sharing. So there's some communication on the Google Doc, practice doc sheet. Similarly, the app participants also did the same thing. They kept the practice doc sheet on the Google Docs, and so they are not learning the mindfulness-based skills from the app. They so Dr. Appel and Dr. White prepare the instruction here, so they can just click the right link that takes you to the Insight Timer page where the participant can learn the mindfulness technique, breathing, and so forth. Then they kept the practice dog. This was done by the graduate student. She had a 5-year-old son, and he just basically saying that she felt calmer after the mindfulness practice. So that is great. So that is how the interventions were like. So this is the result. So we did we delivered the interventions 3 times: autumn 2022, winter 21, spring 21, and overall 29 participants signed up for the Zoom group, 52 for the app, and 55 for the comparison, no interventions. So a total of 136 students on this UW Bothell campus joined this program. They complete the pre-test, completed the interventions and the post-test. In all groups, women or female students were the majority. Interestingly, for the Zoom group, majority were white, and followed by Asian students. For the app and comparison, a majority was the Asian students, followed by white students, white or Caucasian students. And for the school, majority of the participants in pretty much all groups were from the STEM, perhaps because of the Dr. White. He worked so hard to recruit the students. So special thanks to Dr. White. And followed by the nursing health studies, maybe because Dr. Appel is a faculty in the School of Nursing Health Studies. So am I, and Dr. Jody Ali too. But we have a good representation from each school. So that is a demographic data. This is a busy slide, but basically reported the result of the level of the depression, anxiety, and stress. In my opinion, everybody feels depressed or anxious or stressed to some degree. So there's a cutoff point, that if it's below that score, it is normal. So one way to think this table more simpler is either normal, or if it's above mild, moderate, it is abnormal, normal, or abnormal. If that's the case, before the interventions, 32% of the participants were experiencing the normal range of depression. In other words, 70% of the participants were feeling abnormal levels of depression. Similarly, for the app too, 65% of students are experiencing the abnormal level of the depression. Similarly, for the anxiety, 75% of the Zoom participants were experiencing the abnormal levels of anxiety. Similar for the app. The stress too. Wow, 70% of the Zoom participant were experiencing the abnormal level, 60%. So our students were feeling pretty stressed, felt anxious, even depressed. But after the intervention, 80% of the Zoom participants are experiencing the depression at normal range. In other words, only 20% of the Zoom participants were experiencing the abnormal level of the depression. That is a good sign, right? So decreased from 70% to 20%. Similarly, for the app too, dropped from 65 to 47%. So I actually applied the statistical analysis to see if these differences are significant or not. And this is the result. The data were not normally distributed, so I had to go with the median, but the way you interpret the data is the same. The median of the depression score in the Zoom, the purple bar, Zoom group, dropped from 12 to 4, all the way down to 4 after the mindfulness intervention. And similarly for this orange yellow, that's the up group, score dropped from 12 to 6. And I didn't put the p-values, but these differences are quite significant. For the comparison, yeah, 14 to 12, it did drop for the level of the depression. Maybe, it was at the end of the quarter that they felt lighter. Maybe their mood lifted, towards the end of the quarter. Anxiety, the significant reduction for the Zoom group and up to 11 to 6 or 11 to 8 for both Zoom group and up group. Comparison, no change, exactly the same 8 weeks before and 8 weeks later. Stress level, the Zoom group, they are experiencing high level of stress. 19, but it went down all the way to 10 after the intervention. Similarly, for the up group, went down from 18 to 12. For the comparison intervention, the stress level actually increased, probably because of the final weeks. So this result looks great. How about the mindfulness level for the Zoom? The purple, that is the Zoom. The level of the mindfulness went up from the 120 to 137, so it increased. Similarly, for the up to went from the 113-ish to 130, so the level went up to. Comparison with no intervention, absolutely no change. And then, so these changes were significant at below 0.001 level. And the effect size was great. The coherence B was 0.91 for the Zoom, 0.82 for the Zoom. So the effect size was, the magnitude of the change was strong. So that is also great sign as well. So these are some quantitative data. We also received many positive feedback from our participants too. For example, this is feedback from the Zoom participant. I believe she was in STEM, school STEM. She said, "Thank you so much for everything that we did," and she actually enjoyed this session. Very helpful to be a part of. She always looked forward to every Tuesday. Great, I was delivering the Zoom interventions every Tuesday from 3:30 to 4:30, and she looked forward to that event. We spent time together over Zoom. Fun story, she actually used a lot of the breathing, mindful checking, self-compassion meditation that we practiced together. And during the final weeks, she honestly didn't feel like she was taking finals. She had little to no stress at all. So I was like, great, that is wonderful. So it seems like the interventions was working great. Also, thanks for your comment, Cinnamon. Wow, that's what I said too. Similarly for the app participants too, Dr. Appel took care of the 50% of the participants, and Dr. White took the rest of the 50%. And this comment addressed to Dr. Appel. This was done by the graduate student on this campus. She thanked Dr. Appel for all the work we did, the research team. And it has been unexpected and welcome addition to the quarter. So she is a graduate student. She was already so busy, but she was actually glad that she took extra and she decided to join this program. And oftentimes we received something similar comment. They are already stressed out and they are so busy, but they are glad that they actually spend more time to do something this, like mindfulness. Overall, it helps them, to reduce the levels of stress, anxiety, depression. Then I hope it leads to the more academic success. So these are some comments. So overall, it seems that the interventions delivered through virtually, through Zoom and app, and in person, it seems feasible. And and the interventions for effective for both Zoom group and app group to decrease the levels of depression, anxiety, stress, and increase the level of mindfulness. There's something the differences between Zoom and app group. For the Zoom, it was a less popular option. Not so many students sign up for the Zoom group, but once they're sign up, they're really committed, they're really engaged, and they attended the Zoom sessions pretty much every Tuesday, or they watched the recording if they couldn't join the live sessions. On the other hand, for the app group, it was very popular. Many students signed up for the app group, but we also had a lot of the dropout rate for the app group. Maybe because it is difficult for them to sustain the motivations with the asynchronous feature. I don't think this is particular to this program. I have taught both asynchronous and synchronous courses. And for synchronous courses, we get to meet even through Zoom. So the participants know who I am, and they know how I look, how I sound like. Also, I don't know how they look like. They never turn on their webcam usually. But so maybe with the Zoom group we can build some trust rapport possibly. Whereas for the app, it's an asynchronous feature. It might be difficult to sustain the motivations. So that is something that we found out for the future directions. The budget has run out, so nobody is receiving any course release or compensation to do this project. But we received so many positive comments. So I have been just volunteering to lead the Zoom group. It's only Zoom, not the app group in this quarter. And I feel like maybe shortening from 8 weeks to 6 weeks might be a good idea. Although some students feel receive benefits of practicing mindfulness during the final weeks as well. But overall, it seems like 8 to 6 weeks, the shortening is a good idea. Only 10%, 10 students sign up for this Zoom group this quarter, and only about 5 students have been active. But as a researcher, this is not good. We need more sample size. But as a clinician, I'm very happy. As long as those 5 students are learning, and if they're finding this intervention helpful, I'm happy to do so. With the same reason, perhaps we could repeat the same interventions for the next quarter and in the spring as well. And after that, maybe, hopefully the pandemic will come down, then we can have an in-person. Then it may be interesting to compare in-person versus Zoom. Maybe there are some differences. Or, by the research background is behavioral genetics and bio-stress marker. So maybe we could do the biomarkers to measure the phenomena more objectively instead of asking them to fill out the survey, which can be very subjective. Or to make the research design stronger, we can add the randomization piece, something to think about for the future study. And of course, this is a seed grant, so I think you are expecting us to apply more grants, then get more budgets, and keep going this movement. I'll do that. So these are some references that I used in this presentation. And I know that this is the end of the quarter, and we are so busy, like our mind, at least my mind has been so full, mindful, by thinking about the traffic, work, some bills and so forth. But with the mindfulness, if we see the trees and sun, maybe that's all we need to think, just tree and sun, and be in the moment and enjoy the present moment. I thought that is a great way to end this presentation. And I talked a lot, so let me stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much for listening to
Very good, Dr. Niitsu. Very interesting. I think we can open up for questions. I have a question right off the bat. If this were a course that students can take, would you predict that their stress levels will go up?
That is a good question. If there's no grade, then possibly. Yeah, or if I was an instructor, I'll be very, very easy on grade because the purpose is to reduce the level of the stress. So, yeah, good question, Dr. Bach.
I have a question, and I know that you were coming at it from a research perspective. What are the numbers? Is this a good program? But now I'm interested about implementation. Is this something that's going to be offered going forward? Is this a department going to be able to adopt this and provide this as a service? Or just kind of curious about what you guys are thinking about for next steps.
Yeah, probably, I have to, meet with, the team members first, but every time I do these mindfulness sessions, it helps me too to calm down. So in that sense, I'm happy to just keep doing every single quarter, as long as there's some need, I'm happy to continue doing this, this work for whoever who are interested in.
Great.
We can also work with ARC to offer it as a course. Like once a week or something, they can drop in and do the mindfulness in person, and then supplement that with the app, the Insight Timer app for days that we don't meet, as an option for students or faculty, whoever wants to show up for that. It's optional.
I've also received not so many, but a few requests to open up not only to students, but also faculty and staff as well. So maybe that if there's some need there, maybe we as a team can discuss as well. Was that mindful demonstration helpful, or was it strange?
I thought it was very helpful. One question comes out, this has been great work. You've been focusing on methods and using that one method to make your measurements. Are there any other methods of mindfulness that you have considered that might be useful for the future?
For the mindfulness skills, yes, we practice not only the mindful breathing, but also mindful walking or mindful eating. So I ask the participants to bring the raisin or some dry fruit, then really enjoy the taste, then be in the present moment. So these are something that we have done. And yesterday I just did another intervention. We did yoga together and move around. So just move your muscle mindfully. Then that was refreshing to me too. So
we also had, as part of the PowerPoint for the Zoom group, as well as the Insight Timer group, practicing it lying down, sitting up, or standing, whatever they feel like doing. They were giving those options as well in subsequent weeks. I think it's about midway towards the study. We discussed that. And the app group is just 1 week behind the Zoom group. So whatever the Zoom group was doing, then the app group the following week was practicing that exact same skill.
I had one more question. Is the Insight Timer an app that was already existing, or is that an app that you made? Is that custom to you guys, or is that something that
the Insight Timer is a free app.
Okay.
There is the purchase option, which has more options, bells and whistles, but just the basic standard was free. So that's why we chose it. There were many available, but that's what the team decided to use.
Great.
Was the Insight Timer, and it's friendly and it's well used. Some celebrity pictures are on it, so to motivate them to start using it.
Nice.
No conflict of interest with Insight Timer, just to discuss.
Right, no, we're not.
Sometimes you have to find free things to use. Okay, and Natalia looks like she has a question.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. It's so nice to learn about your work. I actually have a couple of questions. One is, I'm curious how the start time of the Zoom group might affect student enrollment in it. So for example, if you wait until the stress builds up in the quarter a little bit, if students might be, looking for something to support them with rising levels of stress as opposed to starting at the beginning of the quarter. So I am curious how that might already be a factor in your research design. And then my other question is about, to what extent can these kinds of mindfulness groups become part of the regular offerings of the counseling center? I know Rosemary was part of your team, but it seems like this was funded as an extra project, and I'm wondering if you can explain that.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, that's a great point. I know at the beginning, everybody is so optimistic and they have high energy. So that is why we recruit the first 2 weeks then start interventions in week 3 or week 4. Sometimes when the motivation started declining, that is the first part. And the second part, the Rosemary was part of the team, and she was heavily involved when she contributed this project a lot. I don't mean to take over the job, but this can be hopefully like nice supplement or additional resource if any students are want to learn about the mindfulness. And for the other project like UW Seattle, they have to pay like $600 to sign up, but for this project they actually get paid $25 gift card by completing this project. But hopefully, especially during the pandemic, many students were struggling with the financial aspect. So even 25 is such a small portion, but still we were hoping to provide some support financially as well.
I'd like to add a little bit about the start time. We had to start at the time that we started because, with the 10-week or 11 weeks quarter, and the program is 8 weeks long. So we don't have a lot of leeway to start later. We wish we could.
Have you thought of adding another aspect of mindfulness and being a loving kindness approach? It's it's a slightly different approach than what you're using, but it's certainly connected. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you, Dr. Bach, led the mindfulness session, that was the practice we did together, the mindful, loving kindness mindfulness. And let me show you the schedule that we did in this program. So we started with the mindful check-in, breathing, then practice of walking and eating and so forth. And towards the end, we started talking about the interpersonal aspects of and we did practice self-compassion meditation and loving kindness. There are two towards the end of the quarter. So yeah, great question. Thank you, Dr. Bach. We did talk about the interpersonal mindfulness at the end of the program.
Does your statistics actually pick out the, what do you call them, the weeks? And I guess that's what it was. And so can you see the effect in each session? Is that what you're showing now?
No, it's just the pre and post. The very beginning post is at week 8, the end of week 8.
So not individual session, but overall, at the beginning and end of the program, 8 weeks later.
Perhaps you can look at the next program, maybe looking at the statistics in a finer way and seeing what parts of the program have the biggest effect.
That would be interesting. So pretty much, assessing every week to see which interventions was more effective. That is interesting. Yeah, I'll take a note.
We may have some qualitative data week to week because each participant was supposed to record what their feelings and some other questions there about how useful it was or maybe not useful for them every week. So we can select those out.
Are there any other questions, comments? I really love this. This is fantastic, and keep going. I mean, I think this is wonderful, and maybe trying to address the context of it, whether it's in the counseling center or where it might be independently somewhere, or even curriculum, maybe somehow it could be put in curricula in such a way that it reduces stress.
Absolutely, thank you. And I see that Dr. Brian White just joined. I don't know if you're driving or not. Maybe if you feel safe, maybe you want to say hi.
Hi, everyone. I am driving, but I really enjoyed your talk. And Dr. Buck, it's great to hear your voice as well.
Well, it's good to hear yours, Brian. I haven't seen you in a while. It's time to have another chat.
Okay, I've got a couple quick announcements. One is Wah had mentioned that there is a collaboration between Providence Hospital in Alaska and nursing studies. I did put a link in, and I'll drop it in again because we had a few people leave and come back. Zoom was a little glitchy this afternoon, which was interesting. Your presentation was unaffected though, just on the back end. So there is a link there and it's a really great article. So definitely go in and check that out. I also wanted to make an announcement. So a portion of this project was funded by the SRCP. Let me grab that link for you guys. So this is the Scholarship Research and Creative Practice grant. I did want to make a correction. The Office of Research administers this grant, as in we help with the with some of the management, and we work with the Research Advisory Council, who works on the selection process, and then we gather up all of the reports at the end, like the midway reports and the reports, but it's actually funded by Academic Affairs. And so that I just wanted to make that correction real quick. And that's it. Carolyn, last thoughts? Did I miss anything?
That was great. Thank you very much, Dr. Buck, Dr. Niitsu, Dr. Appel. This was, and Dr. White. It's really great to hear about the results of this research, and it's had such a big impact on our students. So thank you.
All right, see you guys next time.